They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 183 of the Magic Guys. Over there, wand whistling Doug Kahn in the building. Oh yeah, to my other shoulder, we've got Nick K.
Welcome to the show, friend.
The beautiful, bald, I want another B, beast of a man.
Bastard.
There we go.
Oh, beast.
And I'm Josh Dombito. Welcome to the show where we as professional magicians chat to other professional magicians and talk about our life and the whimsicalness that goes with it. Great to have everyone here already. Tim Askin is ready in the chat. He's good to go. Adonis making my landing. Is he going for a poop before he watches? Is that what he means? And we've got Dragotia. I'm not that hip with the newest lingo, you know.
You just always go to toilet humor. That's all.
That's what I'm known for.
It's
you know.
we'll go with that.
What else can I? Yeah. What does making my landing mean? I mean, he's got a dab emoji next to it. Anyway, doesn't matter. Good to see you guys. And what an episode we had last week. It did some higher numbers on YouTube. Everyone was very interested in particularly Nick's but no, talking about Teller and going to Teller's house and the shenanigans and the sort of inside look on that. Very, very cool. Nick, have you sort of decompressed fully now from Magic Live? Do you feel like?
I have, but the cool thing is that if it wasn't for the kindness of Teller and us going to the shows, I wouldn't have met our lovely guests coming on board.
Very true, very true. And before you dive into that, because that's what we're here for, really. Nick and I caught up last week in person, which was very cool. And you guys have seen a couple of vids coming out from that already, but there'll be some more. And when I got home, my girlfriend was just so creeped out about like how similar we look, both wearing the Magic Guy shirts and having a clean shaven head. It was kind of funny.
Was she into it?
Well,
I'm just asking.
I can't say anything.
No, I'm not going to go there.
And then, Doug makes it 3. And what a party.
I wasn't going to suggest that, but whatever.
Look, we'll save that for
Leave my degenerate mind in the gutter.
Yeah. Well, look, it's good to
keep this fucking podcast wholesome.
Yeah. Oh boy. So, but you're absolutely right. It's, one door opens and that opens another door and that, creates just crazy opportunities like today. So Nick, lead us in. What are we in for today?
Well, to lead you guys into it, whilst away in Vegas and having a fun time with Teller, he was kind enough to have both myself and Nathan Hedger as a guest to his show. And as we arrived to the show, we're lining up in all these booths and we go past all these amazing people along the way. Javier Benitez was there and so forth. And I see this lovely gentleman sitting there in a booth by himself, and we join his group. And so we get the conversation, and super lovely guy. And as we're just engaging in conversation, we set up a friendship, only to find out that not only is he just a lovely dude, he's also a FISM champion from the year 2022 in comedy magic. And over the days
that would be the reigning FISM champion of comedy magic.
Exactly right. And not only that, I had the pleasure of seeing his act, of which he was very humble about, because it was one of the most spectacular things I have ever seen. And he was kind enough to come and have a chat with us here on the pod. So please join me in welcoming, all the way from Denmark, at a very, very late hour that he woke himself up for. He's pumped himself full of caffeine to give you guys a wonderful interview. Join me in welcoming Mortenn Christiansen.
All right. Round of applause.
Tiger Woods for this one.
Yeah. Mortenn, did I get your name right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes? Do you want to explain what was your feeling watching last week's episode when Nick brought you up?
I listened to the last episode just to to know what the show is and hear Nick's version of Magic Live, and then he mispronounces my name 7 times as Mortenn or something, Mortenn. And I'm like, what, dude? We met each other, and it's Mortenn.
Well, in my defense, I have this habit. Whenever I hear something, when I learn it, it's like that's how I hear it, right? So, for example, like YouTube. YouTube is YouTube, TOOB, because that's when I first heard it, and I kept saying it. YouTube. It's tube with a ch. It's just, I don't know if it's part of my learning disability or whatever else, but it's like I get it.
Also, you heard me say my name to you, and you heard my name being presented on stage. The next performer, Mortenn Christiansen, and you still chose to say Mortenn.
He told me his name was Mortenn. And we hung out in very loud environments. We were at a magic show. We went rocking out down Fremont Street where people were trying to whip you. That was a fun time. But before we get into those stories, please tell our audience who you are and what you do.
My name is Mortenn, and I'm a magician. I'm from Denmark, and I do mainly like comedy, stand-up, parlor, stage magic. And I'm pretty decent.
When he says decent, he really means he's very decent.
No, like it was really weird when I first met Nick, and at the Penn Teller show, and he's like, "Oh, you're also a magician," because of Magic Live was starting in 2 days, and I'm like, "Oh yeah." And he asked like, "Oh, dude, should I know you?" And I'm like, "No," because I don't have an ego. It would be weird of me to be like, "Yeah, you should know me." And he's like, "Yeah, what have you done?" And I hate being the guy that has to say, "Oh, I've done this and this." So you have to pull it out of me like, "Oh, have you heard about FISM?" Yeah, okay. Yeah, I sort of won, and I'm sort of the like world champion, like at first place. I'm the best in the world. It was so
and
awkward.
here's my trophy.
Yeah, here's the trophy. And so we took a selfie, and he texted it to a group of friends, and you know this guy? And then he got a response like, "Oh yeah, Mortenn, he's cool." So yeah, he had to be convinced. Yeah.
But still, it's Mortenn, so that's great.
Yeah.
You can just call him Nike for the rest of the episode.
I'll take it.
But okay, well, geez, there's so much to talk about in such little time. Okay, how does FISM happen? Is that something that someone sort of taps you on the shoulder and they're like, "Hey, we think you'd be good for this"? What happens?
No.
Specifically, like, is it something that you said, "I am going there, I have intent, it's going to happen," or is it kind of like, "I fell into FISM"? Because I feel like you're the type of guy that like falls into awesomeness.
Oh yeah, pretty much. No, I've always competed in like local competitions. That we did a Danish championship at one point, and I always liked the deadline of having something to show at in a competition, because I always make my own stuff. So I did that when I was like growing up in the magic world, and I'd always loved FISM. I loved the idea of somebody doing their best 8 minutes. And I never thought I ever would be good enough to even like compete. And because I'd won a few competition here and there, and FISM was postponed a year when I was going to do it. And I had a friend that was like, "Hey, you should do it. You're the only Danish magician that will ever have a chance." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." And and they extended the deadline for entering the competition, and then my club sponsored me, and I went, and I did not expect to win. I thought, okay, I might have some decent original stuff, but yeah, I did not expect the very like.
Now you won for
good.
comedy. Did you enter for comedy, or is that something that is chosen? So there's a comedy contest.
Yeah, there's a they have the category for that, and but nobody's won it for
12 or 20 other comedy acts on a contest bill. Is that how that happens?
Yeah, so at FISM they shuffle all the acts, so you see somebody in manipulation, you see somebody in illusions, and so
Okay.
you don't just see 12 acts in comedy in a row.
I was
But
about to
yeah,
say that's got to be brutal, because if they're
Oh,
not
yeah,
funny
yeah.
and you're
No,
coming up after 6 duds,
yeah.
yeah,
And usually a lot of the comedy magic is like a parody of magic and like
right,
dumb and
questionable.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and nobody's won the comedy category for 10 years when I entered.
Wow, interesting.
Wow.
Because you still have to earn the points to call yourself the
Right.
world champion. Because of the
Wow.
point system, nobody's gotten the points in that
How
category
cool is
for
that?
10 years. And I even think the last guys that won, I think they were moved over into comedy. I'm not sure, but I think that's what happened, because FISM will move people around if they feel like they fit better in a different category and they can get
Yeah.
a
That's kind of
trophy.
why I asked. I got the sense that
Yeah.
maybe people weren't competing in a
Yeah.
comedy contest, but now I understand more about the
The act that got the
there.
second place under me, they were actually in illusions, but they were moved over into comedy because they were funny and they had enough points to earn a second place. But I entered specifically into comedy because I'm a stage performer and I didn't fit in manipulation and illusions and all this stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do comedy. If they had like a close-up comedy, I would have entered that one. So yeah.
Yeah, wow.
so cool.
I feel like, you could have done manipulation if you had done your bag act. That is hilarious. A clip I've seen of you with, talk about a nest of boxes. I mean,
Yeah.
So you've been competing for you've done a few of these, right? This isn't your first rodeo. Can you talk a little bit about?
No, but it's my first, like, it was my first like big international competition, because I'd done like, we had a junior convention here in Denmark, which I did when I was a kid, and then I did the Danish championship a bunch of times, and then I did the Scandinavian, like the Nordic championship, and that's like the only international thing I did. But that competition is with like, they don't play by FISM rules, so the point system is not the same. So I didn't know when I went to FISM, what is my points? Like, I had a few friends that had done international competitions, so they knew what level of points they would usually earn, and they knew what to work on. And I had no idea. Like, I didn't know how good or bad my act was within that point system. So when I won, I was very surprised.
What are some of the criteria of those points that it's based on? Is it like entertainment value? Is it originality? Do you know what the factors are?
Yeah, it's all of that. Yeah. At some point I did. It's like 6 things, and it is like, originality, the magic atmosphere, the technique, stuff like that.
Now,
But I didn't know, because my act there's a lot of misdirection in my act, and it's a difficult thing to because that is a technique, but it's, how would you judge that? Where if you see a manipulator, you can see the technique because we know what to look for, but in misdirection, like, if you are not fooled by the misdirection, does the technique work, or do you have to pretend it worked? Or so I didn't really know what I was getting into. But it worked. But I'm still surprised that I have a FISM first place trophy on my shelf. I'm as good as all the other guys. Me and Sean Farquhar and Norbert Ferrer and all these people, we're the same.
Norbert, I love him so much.
Yeah, he's the greatest, and I'm as good as him. Clearly, Eric Chen, I'm as good as Eric Chen. Like, I know I'm 2 times as big as a little Chinese person. That was not supposed to sound like that, but I'm the same.
Well, it's funny because we had a conversation about that, about folks coming to me and saying, "Oh, you do magic, I do magic. We're the same," and you're like, "No, we're not."
We're the same. No, that's what I mean. I'm not as good as, I've never met Eric Chen, but he's so amazing, and people like that. I have a trophy that says I have the same points. I'm at the same level, but we're not the same, and it's weird, like, being in that club that all of these people, I love these people. Like, Norbert Ferrer is amazing, and Sean Farquhar has won like the Grand Prix, the first place, second place, third place. Like he's been at the top for years before winning.
Yeah.
And I'm just this dumb kid from Denmark that's like, oh, I can do misdirection pretty well. Maybe I can win. And yeah.
Well, maybe you just got to think about it like different styles of music, okay? Comedy is one style of music. It might be the punk rock of the music realm, you know what I mean? There might be like the heavy metal. There might be the Britney Spears, you know? I don't know what Sean Farquhar would be. He would be like the Michael Bolton of magic, you know what I mean? They're all brilliant in their own way, but I don't think that, you know, one makes
the
one
Michael
better than the
Bolton
other.
of magic? Is that where
Yeah.
you go? Michael Bolton of magic?
You know, like just a great classic, absolute bangers. You know what I mean? I just feel like he lives in that realm, and I do believe they're both from Canada, so that's why I brought that up. But I wanted to circle back to originality. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, he's a Celine Dion. He's a Celine Dion of magic. Is that better? Okay. So I
like that better, actually.
I wanted to circle back to your originality because if anyone who has seen your act, it is entirely original and brilliant. And one of the things that I found really awesome is that a lot of the techniques that when you see things of FISM quality, it's that they're using techniques or ideas that haven't been created before or aren't available on a shelf somewhere. And I was hoping we could do a bit of a deep dive into that realm because you do some stuff that I don't know where it comes from. I just know it's brilliant. And
yeah,
what does your brain do? Does your brain go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, and then you get pen, paper, double stick tape, fishing wire, and a chicken and make it happen? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I like magic and I've always been interested in creating things, like not to be like, look what I've made. I'm so original, but like just making stuff, building things. Whenever I got into magic and bought a gimmick, like for some trick, I would always try and remake it to understand that gimmick more and to also know if it broke, I had the ability to make another one. So I'd always just made my own things, and I don't like doing other people's stuff on stage. It feels so weird and fake to me to get credit for something I didn't do. And magic is weird in the beginning, like getting credit for like, look, I'm the greatest magician in the world. And maybe the secret is, oh, you lifted 2 cards at the same time. So that part I've always like struggled with. And so seeing people go on these Got Talent shows and just with the trick they bought for like $15 and you're the best magician ever. Like I hate that. It feels so fake to me getting credit for something I didn't do. So I've always just made my own stuff, and my FISM act is everything in it is pretty much something I've made from nothing.
Has that been the case for all of your competitions that you've done? Have you stuck with original material?
Yeah. I never perform anybody else's material on stage. I literally get like feel sick doing it. It feels so weird getting credit for something I didn't make or say or like invent or something. Even though I know that's pretty much how our business works. You buy a trick, you put a little bit of your own spin on it, but you still, for me, you're still just lying. And especially if you throw on a bullshit presentation of, oh, my dad once said this and blah, blah, blah. Pick a card.
But it's okay to have Michael Bolton singing classics wonderfully, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's maybe not the tier that you want to equate Sean Farquhar with. But we can have this art existing in the world.
Yeah.
Just play a little devil's advocate so everyone in Magicdom doesn't feel bad right now. Because
I mean,
they should feel bad. I'm good with people feeling bad.
Originality is the way, no doubt about it. A million %. But we need to we need to have room for,
I mean, Nick said it really well.
Room for everybody, because there's like this hobby or this art of magic is so big that there can be the guy that just knows a few tricks, and that's fine. But that's also why it's difficult. Me and Nick talked about this, that we're not all the same. That because if you just buy 5 tricks and like magic, you can call yourself a magician, but you're not the same as me or you guys.
Right.
there's a difference, but we just use the title magician. Yeah, I want to do stuff that I've made. Otherwise, I don't see the point of being on stage. It could just be the other people, like the other guy going to the magic shop and buying 5 tricks. And I see that. I work in a magic shop. I see how easy it is to spend $200 and you can have an act. And I know people, and I think it's embarrassing and for them and for the art that they have spent $200 and they have a show and they do cruise ships, they do things all over the world, and I'm like, this is so embarrassing.
It's interesting for sure. I think, if we play devil's advocate, isn't it still nice that the world is seeing beautiful magic, even if it is them as a cover band for someone else's effect?
Yeah, but is it beautiful to see somebody just do a trick they bought and taking the credit? And the whole cover band thing, I think, is an interesting comparison. But the problem is that the people don't know they're seeing a cover band. If I see a cover band, I know, oh, this is a song by this person, but they do it beautifully. Where in magic, they don't know that, oh, he didn't invent this. They will just assume that, oh, this is yours. And especially on those talent shows or whatever, they'll just assume, oh, you're the greatest. Oh, you came up with this. You're so good, creative.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem.
So what should be, and I'm only saying this stuff because I like your thoughts on this. What should be the barrier where it should only be original material? Is it when you're on TV? Like what level should you stop? Because obviously you have to learn from the people before us, but at what point do you think the level should be, okay, from here on, it has to be your work?
Oh, I think
it when
if
you're
you were
doing it
setting
professionally
something up, if you were setting something up like a business of being a magician or setting up a public show or doing stuff on TV, I think that should be your own stuff. If I could choose in a world where I decided everything, that is how I would do it. So I knew, like, if I saw a person setting a show up, I know, oh, I'm going to see his act, what he made. But that's just not how it is. Like, so many people just do Instagram magic or do TV magic and don't know what they're doing. And I don't like that. But yeah, I get it, because we're in this art of you can buy a thing and you can have a show. And so because I work in a magic shop, I see whenever people are gonna put a show together, like if a famous actor or comedian or somebody's gonna put a live tour together, a lot of them go to the shop and is like, oh, I have this live show, but I want something a little bit different. Can I buy something? And they will buy an illusion or they'll buy a trick. And suddenly there's a magic act in this show from a guy that's known as an actor or comedian or something like that. So I'm sad that our art is something you can just purchase and do.
Okay. Tim makes it.
If I could just bounce off that as well, because I was in a band myself. I would often say that. Thank you. I would often say that this is a cover song by whatever else, and I feel that magicians should be able to do the same. Where it's like, this is a wonderful routine that I learned from Eric Jones. It was taught to him by Mike Gallo, and it's a beautiful piece. Can I share it with you guys? And they go, yes. It uses 4 coins, and you do the routine. I think it's cool to do that. I mean, Rod Stewart will do that, in a very intimate sort of setting, and I think everyone should be able to do that, and share the magic by all means. But it's just when people boastfully say, I'm this, and I create this, and I'm blah, that's where the lines get blurred. Not because we shouldn't be performing other people's magic, but just because it's a little bad for the ego. Because the ego will tell itself that, no, I'm this great because I purchased something. But what happens is when the ego is fed too much, it kills growth. It kills your growth as a person. The relationship between ego and growth, it's a tug of war between the two. And it's the only way to kill ego is to focus on growth. So if you try to focus on growing as a magician and getting better and creating your own stuff, the ego gets crushed. And it's only through creating your own stuff and growing that you'll end up being someone like Mortenn, who can lecture and share their thoughts. I lectured last night at the Magic Circle with stuff that I'd created to help other people. And it wasn't even me saying, do my stuff. I said, here's a blueprint to a routine I do, and you can make it your own. Just inject these 4 things, and it's now your own routine. So that's kind of important if you want to actually propagate magic forward. But outside of the originality and the copying, you do comedy. And we all know in the comedy realm that people copy jokes as well. And so Drago Tier asked an interesting question where, when it comes to comedy magic, what comes first, the magic or the jokes? And then furthermore, what happens when folks copy jokes?
Like, at least in the circles I run, that comedians are way better at like stopping people from stealing. Because stand-up comedy especially, is so honest and so vulnerable that they just have the jokes. So if you steal somebody's thing, they will stop you, and they won't give you a spot, or you'll be shamed. So people don't steal, and that's how I got into performing. I started as a kid wanting to do comedy, stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, like being an entertainer in that way. Magic was never my intention to be put on stage. I had magic as a hobby, but thought, to be honest, and I still feel this way, I think magic is really boring, because it is, if you take the secret away, so many magicians have nothing left. They're bad performers. They have this small thing they hide behind, but what makes them be like, oh, look at me, but they don't really have anything. And I think if you close the ball magic shops tomorrow, 80% of magicians will stop, because I can't buy the newest thing. They can't invent anything themselves. Where a comedian is, yeah.
I think
if you write your own stuff.
I think if you just made Double Cross disappear overnight, there would be 10% less magicians.
Yeah, because a lot of magicians, and I'm guilty of this, will like to buy toys. Because, I get a new thing, and you play with it, you show it, and you get credit. You show it to your parents, your girlfriend, your friends, strangers, and you're like, look at this, and you get credit, and you get applause or whatever for something.
I'll tell you, a big culprit
that is
of
a
this,
nice feeling.
The magic community itself, the clubs and the conventions, kind of inbreed this vibe of, we need new material every month to show our peers. And it's really a bad process. I mean, I guess it's nice to have a goal to develop material and such, but looking towards a professional viewpoint, what happens in the magic clubs is not the most beneficial towards reaching artistic goals like you speak of.
No. And hanging with magicians is usually not that great for coming up with stuff, because it's just a lot of like a shoulder tapping, like, oh, you're great and this is good, and we all ignore
this is the
double.
Keep saying that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's such a glad handing. Everyone loves everybody, and everything you do is great.
Yeah, and nobody wants to tell, like, oh, you flashed, or I saw this. We all just pretend like, oh, I see what you were going for, and don't tell them like, oh, this.
Much less tell them they're boring.
Yeah,
that was a boring performance. There's no hook. There's no joke. There's no.
I've been in that situation so many times where I like to be better. I like my friends, my colleagues to be better. So I'll tell them like, oh, you flashed here, or I saw this, but they will take it as an insult. Most of the times, they'll be like, oh yeah, and they won't like listen. And when I got into magic, and especially doing the competitions early on, I have a lot of stage fright, and I really hate doing new stuff, but I never felt that when doing a competition. And I know many people will feel the opposite, that they don't like performing for magicians, but I really liked it, because performing for magicians, I'm not afraid of flashing. I'm not afraid of it going wrong, because it's in front of my friends, people that will help me. They will say, oh, you flashed here, and then I can make it better for my actual audience. But most magicians will take it as an insult, and so hanging with magicians is not really the best way to go, because they won't give honest feedback. And I've done this all the time. I will ask for notes, I'll ask for feedback, and I will do that. It's just a habit. I'll do it after pretty much any show when I have a friend or somebody I know, even the audience. I'll just ask the audience if a person comes up and say, "Oh, great show," whatever. I'll say, "Oh, what was your favorite part? What was the part you didn't like, or whatever, or did you see it?" I'll ask my spectators if they came up to me and like, "Oh, great show," and they clearly want to talk because they enjoyed the show, they like me as a person, whatever. I can easily just ask them, "Oh, did you see something you shouldn't have seen?" Which is also a friendly way of like letting them know that this is not, I'm not God. It's not, "Oh, I'm so cool, you can never figure this out." If they have a note, even if they think I have a trick in my show right now, which I'm closing with, and I ask like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And a guy just said, "Oh," because it's just such a strong ending, but he just assumed it was a different method because he couldn't figure anything else out, and he was like, "Oh, maybe you just did this," and suggested a worse method. But I'm like, "Oh, if he thinks that could be the method, I then have to change so he can't even suspect that, even though that's wrong. But if he thinks that's the method, that's good enough for him to think he figured it out." So getting feedback from magicians, people you trust, and lay people, very important, and I will take that. And speaking about like getting better and ego, I don't have an ego. I just want to do my best. So I'm always working, and it seems weird that like I'm the FISM world champion, best magician in the world, whatever, but I'm never finished with that act. I'm still refining it, changing small things, which I didn't need to do because I've won the biggest competition in my field. I have no reason to make that act better or change anything because it has done what it should be. It is pretty good, but you can always do better, always change something. I just did a trick I've been doing for 10 years. And a few weeks ago, I found a way to make it so much better. And I hate myself for like, oh, it took 10 years. And I've even put it out on video. I've published my work on this trick. And I just figured out, oh, this is much better handling of it. So nothing is ever done. And I think telling yourself something like that, like, oh, this is done. That's what stops you from being creative.
In magic, you're never done. Never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because you always get better. And
there's always something to be improved. You're never finished.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious.
Getting back to the jokes and comedy and stuff, I think I don't know what comes first, because I'm just, at least in my opinion, I'm just a really funny guy. No, but the stuff I make and the stuff I do in my daily life, I'm just the funny guy. I will look at things in a funny way. So for me, comedy magic is the most natural thing for me to create. And it's not necessarily here's jokes or here's whatever, because usually comedy magic becomes a parody of magic. You're making fun of the magic. And some of the things that I value very highly is that magic is never the butt of the joke, that I'm not making fun of magic, because I really love magic. I love practicing on like really dumb skills they will never see. So making fun of it is weird. Why would I go up on stage and be like, oh, look, I know magic. Oh, I'm so weird. Why did I do this? Like, that doesn't fit me. And I'll never sacrifice a trick for a laugh. Like, and it never becomes prop comedy magic. Like, oh, look, it's just whatever. It's an electric deck. Isn't that funny? Like, because it's not my style, but you can do that if you want. So I always make strong magic and then make it funny. But if you're not a funny performer, don't try and do comedy magic, because that's really awkward. If you're not funny, why would you want to force it? But like, at least here in Denmark, Rune Clan, very famous comedy magician, and he's like famous. Everybody knows him. And that also makes every magician wanting to be like him. So for a while, for years, everybody was trying to do they were sounding like him. They were doing his stuff, what he did on TV, they would buy. And then years ago, a guy became really famous as a mentalist, like Darren Brown style. And then everybody wanted to be like him. And again, if you're not a funny guy, don't try and be a funny guy. And if you're not a mentalist, don't do that. I can't pull off mentalism. I've read a lot of mentalism and I like the field. I can't pull it off. I'm 2 meters and look like a goofy idiot. I'm just funny looking. I look like a giant baby. So I can't pull off mentalism. Oh, I'll now read your mind. How creepy is that? So, yeah. So what? I don't think anything comes first if it's the joke or the trick. That's just the feeling of the trick. In my opinion, what I make is always just a funny trick. So
how does one find their personality, do you think, Mortenn? So, for example, I've had guys that have asked me for gigs, and I've employed them and put them in my residencies, and then I've got the worst feedback about them. I'm like, hey, man, like, it's just you weren't bringing the vibe. And they go, no, I'm trying to be more of the debonair type guy, and I just want to be like really still and stoic.
Wait, tell us what it's like to fire a magician.
Yeah. But it's just, you know, they want to be something, and by nature they're not. Do you think it's interesting to just say, like, I want to create a character, or just to be yourself, or be a higher version of yourself? Because
it's a weird situation, because a lot of magicians, and I know I'm going to piss people off, but if you get angry, I'm right, because you got hurt. A lot of magicians is just shitty people, not in that way, but like, you get into magic because you get a hobby, you suddenly, oh, I'm the magician guy, and you get a lot of positive attention, maybe from like women or whatever it is. It's a thing. You suddenly just bought a personality, which means saying your character, saying your thing, like, oh, this is what I'm going for. Yeah, but you don't have a personality without the magic. So trying to go for yeah, so a lot of people don't have, and not that I'm better than anybody else. I'm not. Like, I can find so many reasons why I'm shitty, and I will work on those, I promise. But like, I struggled with that for years. Like, who am I? What am I gonna? Why am I getting on stage? Why not anybody else? Like, because I care and want to be the best person I can be. I don't just want to clap and get people like, oh, like me, please. So the whole thing of developing a character and going for a certain style is a weird thing to do if you don't know who you are. So the character I play, let's call it that, is just who I am, how I would naturally act, and then I've changed a few things to make it an act. But I also have that one character in reality that I can play. I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna make an act where I'm Darren Brown and I know it. I can just look at you and I know everything about you, because even though, yeah, I could learn all the tricks, I could make the script, it'll never play for me because I don't look like that, and I can't live it. So having a character is really difficult.
Even Darren Brown himself talks about when he first started magic, he didn't know who he was, and he thought he had to be a serious close-up performer, and he would walk around the restaurant like giving everyone the nod.
He's still evolving, though. I think he's still an evolution of himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
all great performers will do that.
100%. I think it's an ever-evolving discovery, right? But I think like a lot of people we've had on before, and it sounds like same with Mortenn, Mortenn, is that you sort of draw from your life experience. Then that sort of should be what comes into your acts. Like with stand-up comics, they're writing about themselves, putting it into the show.
Unless you're like a good actor, or like I like a lot of comedy which is just weird, like the one-liner guys that just says weird shit and you don't know if they mean it or not. But that's a difficult thing to pull off unless you are that weird in reality, which some of them are, because I know a few people. But it's difficult to have a character. And again, I think if you take away the magic shops from people, there's a lot of magicians that don't have anything left. And if you take away the secrets Like there's nothing. I once was somebody was telling me the story about like how like an audience would like judge magic, and most people would just look at the trick and be like, oh, the trick worked, he must be a good magician. That is what the only thing they judge the performance, like, oh, the trick worked, oh, he was pretty good then.
This
Where
is
if you take away the
the
secret,
formula for the CW Masters of Illusion show that's been running for 10 years in America. You know? Trick, magic show.
Trick. Yeah, magic is not that entertaining because magic is just, look what I can do that you can't. Oh, you can't figure it out. I'm better than you. That is magic, and it's not entertaining. That's why I didn't start out wanting to put magic on stage, because it is. Look, I'm going to show you something that you can't do, and you can't figure it out, and I'm better than you.
I have this wonderful view of Mortenn, because Mortenn works in a very prestigious magic store in Denmark. But now I just have this very comedic vision of you working the magic shop, and they're like, I would like to buy this invisible deck, and you're like, why don't you learn some?
He's like the soup Nazi. No deck for you.
Yeah,
home and write material. Come back when you have a presentation. I'm really
bad at selling magic. Like I'll be like, yeah, sure, you can buy that, but I will talk people out of it. Also because I don't care if you sell stuff. That's not my problem. But yeah, I'll talk people out of buying it. Be like, oh, this is not that great. But
you know, one of my mentors, Cellini, said there should be 4 magic shops, one on each corner of the globe, run by grandmasters. That's it. That's how you have magic shops.
Wow.
But if you take away the secrets from so many people, they'd have nothing left. Where if somebody, let's say a shitty magician, just think of somebody, and he was doing table hopping, and I walked behind him and told, oh, he's doing a double lift, it's in his pocket, it's in his palm, whatever. First of all, I'll be a jerk and I'll ruin the performance, but also he has nothing left. If everybody is as smart as me as a magician, if we assume the audience is as smart as magicians, there's nothing left. That's why it's so boring for us to see a magician at the local magic club, because he brings nothing to it and he flashes all the moves. And if that's the way lay people look at what we're doing, we have nothing. Where if you were a good performer, you didn't need the secrets. You just had, oh, look, I can also do this, but I'm also a charming person that knows how to act as a person. And that's why I'm sure all of the people you look up to, all the people I look up to, is people that does not need the magic. Like Williamson we all know Williamson is the best. And I don't care about him doing a trick because he's a nice guy and he's funny. Like Tom Mullick is my favorite magician of all time, and I don't even know what he's doing. If you ask me, name 3 tricks, I have no idea. The cigarettes, and that's it. I've seen his the showtime at the Tom Furley like thousands of times. I have no idea what he's doing because he's just funny. He's a clown. He's good at performing. Where that
Rob
is
Zabrecky comes to mind of one of the great theatrical modern original performers.
And I don't know what he does, but I've seen him perform, and he's great.
Yeah,
I don't care about what he's doing.
You know, there's also the other side of that.
It's like he's not going like tricky trick. It might be 3 tricks in 45 minutes.
Yeah. But there's also the other side of that the other side of that is when you're among other magicians who you might be sharing something, a technique, and they go, you don't need to do that, mate. What do you don't need to do this side still. You could just do a double and a double undercut and a this and a that. Like there's some people who are actually trying to be very restrictive on magic developing, or just it might seem unnecessary to some degree to them, but it's like, for example, you can equate it to like a clip shift. It's like, I do this, it's like, oh, why do that for, when you can put it here, then do 3 cuts to the table and then do this, and it's like,
oh yeah, I want to be like, that is one of my things I hate. Like I hate magicians. The worst thing a magician can say to me is like, oh, this is good enough for lay people, or something like that, because they don't want to work harder. Right. So it's just like, oh, this will fool lay people. And I hate the way of talking down to your audience that way, that you're like, oh, this is good enough to fool those idiots. Yeah, but like 2 days ago, you didn't know how to do magic. You bought the secrets. Why shouldn't they be smart? I don't have an education. I dropped out of school after 6th grade. Like I'm sure they're smarter than me. I just spend a lot of time at home having no friends, building a little card gaff. But yeah, of course they're smarter than me. So saying, "Oh, it's gonna fool lay people," it's good enough. No, it's not. First of all, it's insulting to them, and it's just lazy not being better. And one of those things is, now let's mention, I put out a trick with Vanishing Ink. It's gonna be out. It doesn't matter. But that specific trick, if somebody buys it at one point, is trick. I showed it at the Magic Club. Yeah, Mortenn's Jumbo Card trick by Mortenn Christiansen. I made that trick. And I brought it to my local Magic Club, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. And I had this concept for a trick and for a method and for what I wanted to do with it. I showed it to the club meeting. And again, there's just a lot of magicians. They're not any good performers. It's just a bunch of people, I think 10 people at the time. And I showed it, and the feedback was very much like, yeah, why don't you just do a force? And I'm like, you're missing how... First of all, like, I made a thing that's original that I'm proud of, that I want to show, but also you're missing the point of how clean it's going to be, what the feeling is. Just do a force? Yeah, but then we just stop now and never create anything new if it's just like, if force is good enough. So I hate that way of thinking. And also, I stopped bringing stuff to the Magic Club meetings because that's not a nice feeling of, okay, I'm hanging out with people that doesn't care. And just do a force. Yeah, but that's not the trick. If I just did a force, I wouldn't have stood up and be like, hey, can I show you all something? But this was because I had a new thing. So I always wanted to do better and have stuff I'm proud of, because otherwise I don't need to do it.
It kind of reminds me of...
Fuck magicians.
That's you know what, that's what we have to title this podcast.
The Magician Bashing Hour.
Yeah,
it's lovely to hear some cold hard truths, and it might be a little harder than a lot of people want to hear. And if you are a hobbyist, to be that, enjoy your Magic Club, enjoy your kindred spirits and that part of magic. We can enjoy magic so many different ways. But if you're going to put yourself on TV, if you're going to enter a magic competition, if you're going to present yourself as a professional to the paying public, then take the time to do better. Just try, please, to do better.
And especially these days, with social media, you're very exposed, where if you think you're amazing because you've just put out a video of a product you've just bought, and then someone sees you do it and they're like, oh, that's great. And then they scroll and then they see another 5 magicians doing the same thing. It becomes a little weird that they're seeing all these other people do the thing that they just saw you do. And I think originality is what helps you. It's the difference between like being able to make a living from magic doing corporate gigs, but then actually being able to sell out shows and do festivals and things like that is what the difference is between, I think, actually doing original magic
also
and building an
the
audience.
truth is, we can sit here and be like, oh, be original. It's so nice somebody's finally saying fuck magicians. But also, the truth is, all of what I'm saying is not like, you don't need to listen to me, because you can do what you've always done, buy tricks, put like an Instagram video up and make a lot of money. I'm not even a full-time magician, and I'm poor. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you won FISM, you're the world's best. Yeah, but I'm also a struggling artist in that way, that I'm not in it for the money and for the fame or for anything. But if you want to do that, you can just buy the newest tricks, put them up, and do nothing. So there's no reason to listen to me, which is very sad. And I realize that.
So you have a choice. You have a choice. You can be a struggling...
You got that trophy, brother.
Yeah.
I would imagine you
have
could
money
be a
and
busy magician.
I could sell my soul and just...
Yeah,
I'm so
you
bad
have a choice.
At all
You have a choice, everyone. You can be a struggling artist that's original, or you can be a really rich, wealthy cover band. All right, but it's up to you.
There's no reason to listen to me, because it is also just because I can't handle showing somebody else's tricks. Like, I physically don't like the feeling of showing something I didn't make. So when people are like, oh, you're good, you're amazing. Ugh, I can't handle that. Well, if you can stomach that, you should do that, because why listen to me? I'm just a big, dumb Danish guy.
But where do your influences come from if you're not sort of looking at other people's performances or other people's stuff? Do you not look at a technique you know, like if I could touch upon something, I don't know if I should say or not, but there was a lot of cool stuff where pockets were vanishing, for example. You know, I was seeing that quite a lot.
Heard that too.
It seems to be like the new flavor, because even
I think it was just because of those two acts were booked at the same time and we have different works on it. But when I saw we were booked, I'm like, oh, okay, because even though I came up with it for some reason and he came up with it, like, yeah, I usually, if I work on something and I see somebody else have something like it, I will put it down. I'll work on something else, because that's what you do if you have a joke in it, like as a stand-up comedian, you're like, oh, you have something on that, I'll just do something else. Because it's not difficult to come up with stuff. You just have to be willing to do it. But a lot of people come up with one thing and they'll cherish that too much. Like, so yeah, I see, of course, I've worked in a magic shop since I was 14. I've been there and seen all the magics. I've seen everything. And I will just soak it all up and learn from it. But because I know that I will never do something just because I saw somebody else kill with it, I learn from it and just have it, and then I change everything and just bring all the methods in my toolbox, because my methods are not necessarily original, because you can always be like, oh, is it this, is it this? Yes, but the way I'm using it, the way I get into it, the prop that does it now, that's original. So the method is never the important part for me. But being a performer, showing something original, that is what I'm trying to do.
Do you find yourself sort of avoiding? I find myself avoiding magic sometimes, not wanting to watch it online or not trying to learn it because I don't want it to influence something unoriginal. Do you find yourself doing that as well?
It's weird. Like when I got into magic and I saw everything, and I have seen everything. I because I like following what people are doing. Also know what not to do, because this is very popular. Like I worked on something with a Rubik's Cube 10 years ago, and when that got popular, I threw my Rubik's Cubes away, just because I knew this is, everybody's going to do this. It's not exciting anymore. And I was right. It's become a new, like, you do coin tricks, you do card tricks, you do Rubik's Cube tricks. So yeah, very good, Josh. Very good. Just being willing not to work on something because there's a different way of doing it, but I've seen everything, and I use that to then create something for myself. But yeah, I whenever I see good performers, I will always feel like, I'm so shitty, I have nothing to offer.
So how do you feel how did you feel when you met Nick then? Did you feel pretty good about yourself, or did you feel threatened?
He seemed like he had his life together, so yeah,
he does. Yeah,
but also he asked me very quickly. He was like, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Hey, wait till you see my act, like, because you don't you don't have to book me to do this just because you like me. Like, please watch my stuff."
And then I saw the act, and as I'm leaving, he's by the door being like, "Thanks." He was like, "It's all right, yeah, like it's good." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's
please
really really good,
right? Please." Yeah.
Do you get an opportunity to perform your act in public venues in your country and such? Are you working as a professional?
No. Denmark is so small. I think since FISM, which is pretty much 2 years ago, I think I've performed in Danish 10 times. Wow. And like comedy clubs and small things and here and there. There's no places really to perform, and especially not like a FISM act in like a variety show setting, right. Nothing like that. So I pretty much 2 years ago shifted to perform only in English. Making all my props in my FISM act, there's stuff that says something, so the props all made up in English, and I don't even have a set in Danish.
Interesting.
And I was supposed to do it at a convention 2 years ago, and I realized like an hour before the performance, everything was set up in English, and I had to remake everything. So yeah, I don't perform here that much, which is fine. My English is good enough to perform. So.
Well, speaking of props and maybe out of the Danish vein, what is the mystery surrounding the two ducks?
Yeah. Oh, it's very dumb. So my whole branding, or whatever you want to call it, is I am Mortenn with two ducks. And it is so dumb because it is just a word play on my name, and it's not a good one. So in Denmark, and I'm also trying to get it to stick when performing in English that I am Mortenn with two ducks. But so the thing is, I will enter the stage always, and I did it in my Foolish performance last year, holding two plastic ducks. Yeah, we have a photo of me with two ducks. So I'll hold these two ducks, and I'll walk on stage, and in Danish, I will do this joke, which is I'll say, it's difficult to explain because it is, if I say the sentence, hello, my name is Mortenn, with two N's, because my name is spelled Mortenn. If I say, hello, my name is Mortenn with two N's, it sounds the same as if I was saying, hello, my name is Mortenn with two ducks. And it is so dumb. It is a dumb wordplay on my name. And also, that is a wrong way to spell my name. Nobody in the world spells Mortenn that way. That is completely wrong, having the double N. I've legally changed my name to that, so I can do that joke. And I have to explain it every time I pick up a package at the post office that it's not a mistake. That is how it's spelled. And it's so awkward.
That's how you end up people calling you Mortenn. They think you're some kind of weird.
They read it completely wrong. And it's like, oh, was it two N's or two E's? And Mortenn. So, yeah, it's very dumb. But I have a lot of props with ducks and stuff like that. And so on Fool, I walk on stage and I'm like, hello. And I look very awkwardly at the ducks in my hands, and I say, oh, I now realize this only works in Danish. And it is so dumb. And I'd done shows where people after ask, like, is there a joke in Danish, or is it just dumb? I'm like, no, there's a joke, but it's also dumb.
People are asking, could you say it in Danish? I think they want to hear you say ducks.
Oh, so in Danish, it would be like, if I say, hello, my name is Mortenn with two ducks, it'd be like, hej, jeg hedder Mortenn, og det er med to ender. Ender.
There you go.
Ender means multiple ducks.
See, that's funny.
And it's so dumb. I have a joke and a whole brand that is made for one very small country, and it is also a joke that will get that reaction of, ugh, because it is so dumb. Like, it's like, oh, I'm forcing them to like this pun. Oh, okay.
It almost seems more clever. It almost seems more clever in English when you then say your line of, oh, I've just realized this only works in Danish, because now to us it means you're so clever that you've like explained to us idiots in English that it's a funny joke in Danish, even though it might not actually be that funny.
But it's so dumb because the ducks are very, like, they take up so much space in my suitcase, but I insist on having them. Like, being on Fool Us last year, I think that's what got me on, because I sent them a video of the trick, and they were like, oh, okay, it's fine. And they were like, can you send it to us, like, in a performance? And then Michael Close saw the performance, and he just died laughing when seeing the duck thing, because it didn't make sense.
Right.
So yeah, I'm forcing that into everything, that I'm Mortenn with two ducks. And then you have a trick, Nick, which I put out with Vanishing Ink. It was just pre-launched at Magic Live, and they put it out, and there's no instructions for it yet because they didn't do that. So hopefully, when you're listening to this in the future, there will be instructions for it, and it'll be out sometime this year. And it's a pretty good trick. It's called Mortenn's Jumbo Card Trick by Mortenn Christiansen, and that is me.
Oh, I love it. All right. So look, this is such a great intro to Mortenn's world. For anyone who's listening who maybe hasn't seen much about Mortenn, other than obviously his Foolish act and his FISM act and things
follow me
like
on
that.
Instagram.
So this is absolutely. So his link, his Instagram is in the bio. Now, Mortenn, to end every episode, we give our guest the final word. So you've given us many words today, and I love the flavor of it. It's very refreshing. So we're gonna pass to Mortenn. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope it's not the last time. Hopefully we can catch up in person one day. And
yeah, for sure.
Ladies and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave Mortenn with the final word.
Be better. Don't settle. Don't just do stuff. But then again, nobody cares, and you shouldn't listen to me. I have nothing. I have no money. I have no friends. I live alone, and I'm in Denmark. It's not a very nice country. Okay, I'm lying. It's a very nice country, but yeah, just don't listen to me. But then maybe I think you should, but you shouldn't, because why would you? But I think you should. But again, I'm nobody. Who cares? Like 2 years ago, I was nobody. And now I'm just nobody with a big fucking glass trophy from FISM because I'm the fucking world best. So please listen to everything I've said. But then again, you shouldn't really, because I'm just a big dumb guy. Like I'm nobody. But please listen. But then again, you shouldn't. I'm sorry.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.